what y'all gonna do? We'll cruise among the stars. No matter what you do, I'll get you back up off the wall. Yes, sir. Yo, life is full of options, switching all the time, but the quickest way from A to B is still a straight line. I ain't lying, that is science. I'm trying to explain, cause if you apply determination, you can do anything. You can put your mind to. Give me the audio chord so I can find something to ride to. We're about to fly to another planet. Is magical warp speed like it's in a galactic. The way you make me feel, let's dip, cause we can fly in my starship like Han Solo by the castle mine, like Cowboy Bebop with jet and spies, like Captain Kirk on the Enterprise. We can travel far like Adama did in a Battlestar. I'm flinging haters like a catapult. You feel the heat, take it off. Like what y'all gonna do? We'll cruise up among the stars. No matter what you do, I'll get you back up off the wall. Yes, sir. Keep your windows down. Breeze hitting you didn't know, but you know now. I'm not kidding, there ain't no stopping. BSing is not an option. I just wanna see everybody rocking. I wanna see you getting higher than a rocket. Land a spacecraft with Neil and Buzz Aldrin. She in the cockpit, cruising at an altitude up there where all the stars live. Take the TARDIS back to Gallifrey, where the guardians of the galaxy, like Superman and Lois Lane, go to Cybertron on the Astro Train. I just want to see you do your thing. If you don't know now, then you'll learn. From the earth to the moon, influenced by Jules Verne. I'm not concerned about what y'all gonna do. We'll cruise up among the stars. No matter what you do, I'll get you back up off the wall. Yes, sir.
Packing up for another trip. If you drive by my way, really there is no rush to this. We can rock night and day. Intergalactic love for this. Take me to outer space. Beat me up on that mothership so we can fly away.
I get in trouble sometimes. You make me wonder where we're flying to this summer.
Are we going somewhere?
I get in trouble sometimes. You make me wonder where we're flying to this summer. I get in trouble sometimes. You make me wonder where we're flying to this summer.
Where we going, baby?
Ooh. I get in trouble sometimes. You make me wonder where we're flying to this summer. Like
What y'all trying to do?
Okay, everybody wants good love, that's true, I know. Derrick Jones about to break it down with the relationship gumbo. Welcome to the podcast. Ain't no doubt we all need this, ayy, cause better relationships need better ingredients, ayy. So if you want better relations, it's about communication, finding love, staying together. We all wanna make it better, yeah. Derrick Jones, the host, your relationship coach. Thank you all for tuning in. Relationship gumbo, ayy.
Welcome back, everybody. You know what time it is. It's Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It is the Relationship Gumbo Podcast Live Edition. Last week, we were on a little hiatus, but we back, y'all. So make sure that you do me the biggest favor ever. If you aren't subscribed to the YouTube channel, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. You should be watching me through the YouTube channel, so all you got to do is go in and subscribe, click that bell, make sure you click you want all of the notifications so you can get all of the good stuff that's coming your way the rest of this year and beyond. And tonight's episode is going to be an interesting one. Like I say, I always kind of think of these things and I kind of brain dump them, so I want to lend this to you guys so that you guys can get some value. The first housekeeping thing that I want to do is we are also an audio podcast. So that means you can listen to it on your Bluetooth speakers in your car, in your headphones. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, iHeart, Pandora, Amazon. So no matter where you go, I'm there. So make sure you do that. There's over 100 episodes there for you to binge and or pick and choose your poison so that you can go and get the value that you came for. And we just gonna go ahead and get this thing started. So if you are here for the first time, the way that this normally goes is that I will pause for 3 seconds. I will start the show, and then I'll pause for another 3 seconds so that I have a space to chop it off so you can get that good audio in the middle when it gets converted to audio. So, without further ado, give me my 3 seconds and we'll get started. And welcome to another episode of the Relationship Gumbo Podcast. My name is Derek Jones and I'm your host. I'm a certified life and relationship coach, an engineer, a strategist, and a mental health advocate. And tonight's episode is going to be kind of interesting. It's not going to be a long one, but it's going to be an important one. Somebody needs to hear this tonight. I feel it in my bones. Tonight's episode is called You Hate Men or Women, but you still want to spend time with them. It's kind of weird, right? We know these people that say all men aren't whatever and all women aren't whatever and they just tired of them and they don't ever want to deal with them ever. You know what it makes me think of now that I'm saying this out loud? It makes me think of, you know, when people drink and they have that hangover and it's like the worst hangover ever. What's the first thing you say? I'm never going to deal with drinking ever again. I'm done. This is it. I'm sick. I'm throwing up. I've got this migraine. And you like, you know what? I'm done with liquor. And then maybe about a week or two later, maybe a month later, you go back in and you get something else to drink because you ain't really done. And guess what? You might get another hangover another time somewhere down the line. You're not really being careful. You're going back to your old habits, but just keep swearing it off, right? The whole purpose of this show is if you're going to swear something off, and you really stand by your convictions, then stick by it. When you start balancing both sides of the fence, then it looks kind of crazy when you're out here shouting this stuff from the rooftops. We're not talking about in the privacy of your home. This is like public information. So when people say they're done, I hate men, I hate women, I'm done. But then you see these same people out here going on dates. They sleeping with everybody. They're spending time, they're spending money, and then they still keep saying that they hate them. It doesn't really compute logically, right? So we're going to talk about this tonight. The first area that this made me think about was when people say, I hate all men or I hate all women. We already know that that's what I would like to call a trauma response. That's just my opinion. I call that a trauma response because you haven't met all men and you haven't met all women. So you're saying this because of your experiences in life, which for most of us is really tiny in the whole scheme of thing of, you know, having billions of people on the planet. Your experience is really tiny. So when you make a blanket statement like that, that comes from a trauma space. And like I always say on my shows and beyond, that your trauma leaves clues. All of that shouting, all of those trauma responses to what you've been through, when you say you hate something, but you still indulge in it, are you really being honest with yourself, right? For most people, it inherently does not become fact because of the next thing that I'm going to say. Well, I take that back. I got one more point I want to talk about in this trauma space, and sometimes we'll call it bitterness, right? You too bitter. And some of us are bitter from our experience. But here's another nuance that I thought about too, that I'm going to call secondhand bitterness, right? Now, this is what I mean by this. You know how secondhand smoke, you know, somebody smoking and somebody standing next to them, they inhale the smoke. Then they start to, you know, ingest the properties of that nicotine or whatever's in that cigarette, right? Secondhand bitterness is you may not necessarily have endured the same amount of trauma as like a friend of yours, but you hear them talk about it so much that you now start to adopt a behavior, and now you saying all men suck even though you haven't had the trauma, right? Those people exist too. I know you guys know them. I know you've seen them. They're going to tell you how much they hate men, but they haven't really had a lot of tumultuous relationships or situations or even trauma. They're listening to their friends and they're taking and adopting that mindset, right? But here's why it's difficult for you to say I hate men and I hate women. We're talking about human beings, right? Human beings are a communal social creature. I don't care what gender you are. We are put on this planet. The way that we exist on this planet, we're supposed to connect. And I believe innately we all want to connect. And it doesn't necessarily have to be romantic relationships, right? But we all have a desire to be attached and connected to people. Unless we experience some trauma and we say those trauma response things like I hate all men, I hate all women. Because we are built to connect and be communal, a person that says that still wants to date, right? And we're going to talk about what this looks like. It's because you can't skirt our desire to be connected. Even though you don't want to be connected, that innate thing in you still desires the connectivity. That's why people that say that they hate the other gender and they don't want to be bothered, they'll still end up having sex with them. Like I said before, they still hang out with them. They still go out on legitimate dates because there's a part of you that wants that human connection. And as much as you try to run away from it, unless your trauma is just so egregious that you lock yourself in the house and you don't want anybody to meet you, most people can't skirt that, right? And that doesn't mean you're out here sleeping with people. You just want to be engaged and you want to feel the feeling of being connected to people. And that doesn't make what you're doing right or wrong. It makes you human. Humans like hugs. Humans like being around other people. That's why I always say, and we all know, that's why if someone was in jail or prison, the solitary confinement is a punishment. Because you can't be in there so long by yourself before you start to go crazy. It happens outside of prison too, right? And so when you mix a traumatic past with the desire to connect with people, in a lot of cases, you end up being that person that ends up hurting people. I need for y'all to follow me. If you combine your traumatic past and your bitterness and your hatred for the opposite sex, but yet you still spend time with people under the guise that you are on the open dating market, you will end up hurting people. Because it inherently isn't true that you are really prepared or ready to date, right? It's self-serving. It's very selfish. And you really have to pay attention to why you are out here behaving in this manner. Why do I feel like every person of the opposite sex is bad? You have to look at your own, and we always talk about taking inventory of your patterns and your behavior. And we'll talk about this later. You may not be able to be the one to figure it out. We talk about this a lot on my show. There's people that's trained to help. So think about how many people that you could potentially hurt by pretending, and I'm using that word on purpose, by pretending that you are open to date. Because remember, you hate them all, right? It's that double talk. I get people contacting me all the time asking, how can they put themselves out on the market, but yet I'm done at the same time. And I'm like, how can you say both things at the same time? You're not ready to date, right? And what that looks like in everyday life, sometimes it looks like situationships, right? A lot of people end up in situationships that hate men and hate women, but they end up in situationships because they don't have to commit. So it's like the perfect storm. I can still get the benefits of human connection without the commitment of a relationship, because when I'm in a relationship, it equals trauma to me. And we know in a lot of situationships, in most of them, someone ends up getting hurt in the end, because human connections, sometimes when you are in close proximity of somebody over months and months and years, your emotions get involved because you're human, right? We can't escape that unless we have so much trauma that we are disconnected from our emotions. And that's a whole nother problem in itself, right? Some people, they thrive in situationships and being emotionally detached, but you're still seeking human behavior. You're still seeking human connection. You need that, or else you wouldn't be doing it. Those people that say they hate the opposite sex, you should never date. If it's true, but it's not true. That's the whole point of this show. It's not true. It's not true. So if you find yourself in a situationship saying that you can handle it, but yet you're still pining after the person and you're hoping one day that it'll turn into something more, stop. It doesn't always work out the way you think. Because when we talk about situationships, it's like I'm not committing, so therefore I'm avoiding pain. I'm avoiding being hurt by the person because I'm not connected, but you've been seeing them every other day for the past 8 months. There's a connection there. Don't know what you want to call it, but there is a connection there. The other way that this shows up, and I actually have created a course for this called How to Catch a Predator, predatory behavior. Somebody that hates men or hates women, they know that they don't want to seek out a relationship, so they do predatory things to try to dupe people into being in situations where there's human interaction and human connection, but they have no, and I repeat, no intention of going past a certain point. So they're going to sell you that dream. They're going to get in and get out. They might even ghost you, right? Because they do not want to relive that trauma that went unchecked, that they did not start that healing journey, right? And so out of, again, a trauma response, they'll say they hate the opposite sex or whatever you guys are doing in 2022. They'll hate the opposite sex. They don't ever want to date it. How many people do you know that are, whatever age they are, and they say, I'm done for the rest of my life. I'm not dating anybody else. I'm not meeting anybody else. I'm just done. Right? How long does that done really last? If you really see these people over time, how long does that done really last? Now, that doesn't mean that they end up in a relationship, but how long can they go without human connection? There's some people that can do it, but not many. Not many. And like I said, people have these different defined types and alternative types of relationships. You're still being connected to people. Even if it doesn't look like marriage or anything traditional, you're still seeking human connection. I need for you guys to understand that. It's something that's innate in us, whether we like to believe it or not. You can go in the house and lock yourself in the house for 10 years and call yourself a hermit, but you're going to come up out of there 10 years later looking like something different. Trust me. And it ain't going to be pretty. You can order DoorDash all you want to. You spend years not interacting with anybody. It's going to be, a lot of people felt this during COVID. When they couldn't necessarily go outside and mingle with, and they was going crazy. Literally. The third thing that I'm going to talk about that it could show up in everyday life is what I call thrill seekers, which are people who they get off on the thrill of the chase, right? They get a thrill off of having those text conversations and it'll seem really hot and heavy, and then it'll kind of dissipate and disappear. Because they got their little dopamine drug high off of you. again, it's still human connection. They don't want to go too far because it means attachment, and attachment in their mind equals trauma. So they're not going to go but so far, but they have an innate need to connect with humans. We all do. Again, you can kid yourself if you want to. I literally, like, during COVID, outside of my wife and my daughter, I was like, you know what? I'm good. I'm an introvert. I can just chill. I got my internet. I got my TV shows. Got my Netflix. Then after a while, that innate thing said, I need to interact with people. I don't care how much of an introvert you are. Even babies have an innate desire to connect. We're born this way. Sorry to break the news to you. So I'm going to start wrapping this up. And I'll tell you why in a minute. But I'm going to start wrapping this up. But the conclusion to this is, if you are exhibiting this type of behavior, if you find yourself saying everybody sucks on the planet Earth, you might need to go talk to somebody, because it's probably not coming from just a bitter place. There's probably some trauma in there. And you may need to talk to a therapist, a coach, counselor, to try to get yourself back on track. Because if the person underneath the shouting from the rooftops that you hate everybody, if the person underneath still wants love and still would like to be in a situation, it's a lie. And the person on the inside is being tortured by that lie. I need for y'all to catch that. That's why the person on the inside, when they finally come out, they start to make some destructive decisions out of desperation. Stop lying to yourself. Figure out what's going on with you, who you are, erect some boundaries, and see what can happen. Right? Quitting is an option, but quitting doesn't get you human connection. So I'm going to land with that. Hopefully you guys got value out of this. Normally the shows are slightly longer, but you guys know that this online relationship academy is being built from the ground up, and it's close, guys. It's super, super duper close. As I'm building it and creating the way that it looks and the colors and putting the video in I'm building all of it up from scratch like some Legos, and it's going to be pretty amazing. The content is extremely comprehensive, and there's some things in there that you probably won't find on any other platform. The first course is called How to Catch a Predator. The second course is called Am I Really Ready to Date? And it's broken down. We're not talking about an hour. We're not talking about 2 hours. We're talking about maybe 2.5, 3 hours of content just pumped in there, broken out in a way that you can digest it and that anybody can digest, no matter how you comprehend, no matter how short or long your attention span is. It's built for everybody to really learn and heal from. So I'm excited to bring that to you. It realistically, at this point, at the rate that I'm going, we're looking at next week. So just make sure that you stay connected to relationshipgumbo.info. You're going to start to see some changes on social media. You're going to start to see some advertisements start popping up. So stay tuned for that. And from that, it will spawn a lot of other things that we'll talk about later. But there's a lot of things coming. Stay tuned. Share this live with somebody that you think will be interested in the information. And I will see you next week. Same time, same place. I think Father's Day is coming, so happy Father's Day to the fathers. Juneteenth is on the same day. I think government-wise, I think it gets observed on Monday, so happy Juneteenth or whatever you celebrate this weekend. Get it in, and it's more important than that. Take some time for yourself. Put yourself on the priority list, because if you don't, it just doesn't look good. Like I've done it for so long. So I'm learning to take breaks. I'm learning to put myself up there so that that I'm functional, so that I'm able to share whatever I have to offer outward without me hurting myself. And really like people deal with being burnout. I've heard the word burnout probably about 5 times this week from 5 different people, and I'm like, it's a real thing. So just make sure that y'all pace yourselves. I know the hustle is real out here, but pace yourselves, get your sleep and all that good stuff so that you can, because we need to see your greatness. We need to see your purpose lived out in helping people and doing what you're supposed to be doing on this planet Earth. So on that note, I'm going to get out of here. Y'all have an amazing day. And like I said, same time, same place next week. Have a great evening.
Okay, everybody wants good love, that's true, I know. Derrick Jones about to break it down with the relationship gumbo. Welcome to the podcast. Ain't no doubt we all need this, ayy, cause better relationships need better ingredients, ayy. So if you want better relations, it's about communication, finding love, staying together.